So let's start with the victors, shall we? Craig Cumming alongside me. 3-0, series win for New Zealand. Their proud record in 50-over cricket, going back all the way to 2019, continues. How did they do it? How did they beat England so comprehensively?
Yeah, when you look at the side and New Zealand, while they started with Henry, they've got probably 7 or 6 leading seamers out. But the ability for, Matt Henry did play in the first game, but I talked during the game that they did get the luck of the toss. They won the toss and they got to bowl first, and especially in the first ODI at Mount Maunganui at Bay Oval, and also today, it was a big advantage. I mean, you get the opportunity to put a team under pressure. The ball was moving around, not only swinging. I think swinging's fine and you should be able to count it, but it was seaming. And then throw in a little bit of variation of bounce. And what that did is it puts England under pressure because they're shot makers. They want to go out, they want to take you on, they want to put you under pressure. But it's very hard when the ball's moving laterally, and they were able to put them under pressure. They got them in, I think, the most they had in their first 5 wickets was 80 in the 3 games, and it's very tough in this modern era to be able to come back from that. And then New Zealand were able to just be able to pace the way that they chased. Daryl Mitchell was obviously the glue in all 3 games. He just sucked an anchor at one end and played it beautifully, and the others were able to chip in around him. So, you combine all that together. I think, New Zealand will be very happy. They'll be really delighted with the emergence of Zach Fawkes, who's bowled beautifully and continue on his development. Blair Tickner, who's sort of come from the wilderness again, thought maybe his international career was over, came back in Hamilton, 2 4-wicket bags, and then was there at the end with the match-winning runs. It just shows a really good, I suppose, development program that New Zealand's had. They do it very well, whether under Gary Stead, the former coach, now Rob Walter. One thing they've always done well is they've used series leading up to certain series to give players experience. And last year they went over to Pakistan, and that's when Fawkes got picked for the first time. So they seem to introduce them well, and then when they get asked to step up, they do step up, and they've been able to do it. Have England had one eye on the big dance over the road? Yes and no, because you've got to remember there's a lot of players here in the one-day side who aren't going over to the Test series, and a lot of these players are world-class players. So, it was an even footing, but I still won't go past the fact that toss has been a major impact.
Cameron, do you think that when you look at this England lineup, and with all that Craig has just said and the point that he made, and I think that I agree, the toss has been important. It's not often you see Harry Brook frustrated, but he was a little frustrated when he lost that 3rd consecutive toss. He was frustrated at the end of the second ODI, but he does look through those names and thinks to himself and says out loud that a lot of them will get into a World 11. New Zealand, the cliche has always been that they've been greater than the sum of their parts. Is the reverse true for England? They're not quite as good as what they should be if you look at the individuals that make up the 11 and the team and the players around it?
I think this series they'll be disappointed with. I agree with Harry Brook. You look around, you look at the names on that team sheet, and a lot of these guys would get into most teams in the world. So I wouldn't say necessarily that they aren't greater than the sum of their parts, but there are a few players there who'll have wished that they'd done a bit better. I mean, look at the form of Ben Duckett over the last few games compared to what he would expect of himself, and that's not a criticism, it's just he's one of the best players in the world in all formats, so he would expect
the
himself.
Scoreboard doesn't lie, does it? He's a guy who's been averaging 50s and whatever. I mean, part of the problem, I think, is New Zealand is a long way to go to play the 3-match ODI series, and if you look at the numbers put on the board by those 3 players, Jamie Smith, Ben Duckett and Joe Root, who have flown in, they didn't play in the T20s, and they just played in the 3 ODIs, and between them they've scored, Duckett scored 11 runs in 3 matches, Joe Root has scored 29 runs, and Jamie Smith has scored 18 runs. When you couple that with the fact they've lost the toss and been asked to bat in difficult conditions against a good attack in home conditions, then kind of makes sense that they could struggle and have.
Yeah, it's completely normal for that to happen. I mean, they will hold themselves to very high standards, so they would want to do more than what they have done. But yeah, just to reiterate, losing the toss on 3 wickets that have been bowler friendly, is not ideal, but I mean, credit to the New Zealand bowlers for the way they've gone about things. Missing Matt Henry for the last 2 ODIs as well in Hamilton and Wellington. They've found 2 gems in Zach Folkes and Blair Tickner as well. They've performed out of their skin.
It'd be interesting because from a batting point of view, and I agree, when the ball's doing plenty, you've got to be proactive and you've got to look to put the bowler under pressure. To me, when you say you've got to go harder, it needs a little bit more explanation, but they'll have more explanation. But you shouldn't be surprised today that Zach is running and swinging the ball into the stumps. If you get done with one that nips away and holds his line, because that's a variation, but it should not be a surprise. And it's a little bit like Joe Root walked in. I'm not going to criticise Joe Root's record in that. First ball, he walked at him. Yeah, but the outside off stump, I thought, yep, that's exactly, you can see the class. He didn't do it the next ball and he got out. You sort of sometimes think, well, why not do it again and just do it again? Because they knew what he's going to do. Someone like Tickner, you can understand, maybe surprised them. But, it's one of those things. But in saying that, today I thought Harry Brook, when he was batting, I won't say the words that I thought he said, but he looked like, oh no, this is meant to be one-day cricket and this is hard yakka. And he nearly looked a little bit resigned, remembering he played an amazing innings in the first one, and he countered the same conditions in the first one and played out of his skin. But I think today was just like they were praying for a good surface, a surface they could turn up and be natural. They lost the toss, and it was doing just as much, if not more, than the other ones, and I think it might have just beaten them up.
This has been the Achilles heel of this England side, though, for 6, 7, 8 years. Flat tracks, they are, on their day, unbeatable. But when they're not on flat tracks, then they can come a cropper. Blair Tickner is player of the match. I do know the answer, I'm being a little facetious, but how can Blair Tickner win 2 player of the match awards in a 3-match ODI series and somebody else get player of the series? Daryl Mitchell. It does kind of make sense, I suppose. He did perform well in 3 matches. But anyway, that's just, I'm being facetious slightly. Going back to this game, I mean, it was a good contest. I found it fascinating duel at the start. The ball was dominating back, but then England did come back into the game. And you were saying, Cameron, there are some players that will walk away from this series feeling that they've actually, their reputation has been enhanced. Well, Jamie Overton is certainly going to be one of those. He hit 46 in the first ODI, 42 in the second, and he hit 68 today. They are his 3 highest scores in 50-over cricket, international 50-over cricket. And, he once again showed that he's more than handy when you also throw in the fact he can bowl 90-mile-an-hour deliveries, wicket-taking deliveries, and he played very, very well today. Didn't quite get England up to a score that they could go on to defend, but actually didn't come far off.
Yeah, I think Gareth Batty said on talkSPORT before that he thinks that Jamie Overton is Surrey's Andre Russell, and I mean he played that way today. He's for the whole series. He's almost been batting on different pitch, albeit coming in a lot later than what the top order have had to deal with. But he's just played properly. He's played beautifully, and then he's gone through the gears when he's needed to. And today he sort of marshalled the tail fantastically, and then his bat. No one was expecting that from his batting really, but even though he is an all-rounder, but his bowling was top draw today as well, pushing 90 mile an hour quite consistently.
What I enjoyed, we were talking about it earlier, was that he had his plan, but he went, as soon as he got a short ball, he put it away. And you saw today, as soon as you're back of the length, he was climbing into it, and there was no risk. And then that put the pressure on, and he didn't try and go down the ground early on. He didn't try and take on the pace or go at it. And in some ways, I talked about it, he let the ball do the work. As soon as you drop short, he put it away. If it was outside, he beat back with point. And there was a method to the madness. Now, he had a little bit of luck early on at Bay Oval, which you all need, of course we do. And then the confidence grew. And, yeah, he just needs someone to hang from a bit longer, another 10 runs. And, he did everything he possibly could to give England a chance to win all 3 games the way he played.
I thought he was smart today because, when you bowl short at him, as you say, he'd flat bat it or he'd pull it or he'd smash into the stands. But actually, he moved around the crease really nicely. There was a couple of 4s that he took down to fine leg, which, he created that angle. And, of course, the bowler didn't want to bowl anything short or on a good length, so he knew he was going to be bowling full on the stumps and combated that. I thought he batted really well today. It wasn't to be for him, but the Andre Russell comparison makes sense in another way, because, of course, there were times when, just like Andre Russell, he wasn't fit to bowl, and he wasn't coming in the top 6. So there was a tour of the West Indies where he was essentially coming in as a non-bowling number 7 or possibly even a non-bowling number 8. And people are thinking, well, what's all this about? And I think today and on other occasions you've seen, well, this is what it's about, because he will be able to bowl. He just was struggling on those occasions, but his batting coming in at 8 can change games.
Yeah, he's often played in Surrey's T20 side as a batter, batting at 7, and he's an unbelievable fielder, so one of the best boundary fielders you can get, and in red ball cricket, one of the best slippers you'll find. Sadly, he's left red ball cricket behind for a little bit, but yeah, he's been so valuable for us with his in T20 cricket for a number of years now, just coming in when you sort of want to go at 10 to 12 and over, and clearing the fence with not just brute strength but a lot of skill as well.
Talking about a lot of skill, let's hear from Blair Tickner, who has caught up with Daniel McCarty at Sport Nation.
Blair, it's congratulations, and it's one thing to come back into this side when you don't think you're going to be playing international cricket again and take wickets. It's another thing to have to go out there and maybe get him across the line with a bat. How are you feeling out there?
Yeah, I was telling the boys I actually got that bat out of the shed. Don't have a kit sponsor at the moment, so I just found whatever one that felt nice, and didn't think I'd be batting for New Zealand, but nice to get us across the line.
I'm sort of feeling like you would have mentioned, coming back into bowling with a different perspective and probably enjoying it. Did it feel a little bit different than that when you had the bat in hand though at the end there? That maybe the enjoyment factor wasn't quite there.
Yeah, it was obviously nice that most of their bowlers are bowled out, so that gave us a little bit less edge. But no, it was just enjoyable. Wanted to enjoy my time, didn't matter how well I went, so it was a good experience.
I mean, 2 bags of 4, there's not many people who have done that. You got 2 bags of 4 in a one-day series for New Zealand. You must be thrilled with the way it's gone with the ball. Yeah,
to be honest, I'd be happy just getting out there. The results obviously went my way, but it's easier when they're halfway all out by the time I get to bowl, so it's up to the guys at the top that did really well opening the bowling, so yeah, it was just clean up the tail.
Yeah, you'd had a little bit of a break from cricket, reassess things, and it's obviously well spoken about the things that have been going on in your life, but has this sort of maybe stoked the fire again?
Back for the Stags on Monday playing against the Volt, so probably just back to the domestic grind and see what happens. If they need Steve McDonald, I'll be here.
You must be, I guess you're probably pleased with the ground staff as well. They've produced 3 wickets that have done a little bit for the Quicks.
Yeah, it's been enjoyable to bowl on. A little bit in it, so I can't complain.
Said with a smile. Can you give us, what was that little comment there?
The Stephen Donald one was Stephen Donald kicked the winning penalty in the 2011 World Cup.
Tugging down his All Black shirt. Didn't fit right.
The week before the final,
he'd been white baiting.
He was out white baiting, and New Zealand lost 3 first fives during the tournament. So the coach gave him a call, and he was out on the river and said, "We need you to come in and try and win us a final." And he came in and kicked the goal. So that's what he's meaning. He was out in the wilderness. He got the call, and he came in, and he's done all right.
I get it. I thought it might have been his captain in domestic.
I love the fact that he didn't have a bat. He had to go to the shed and just pull one out, and I tell you what, it worked all right.
Certainly did. Let's hear from Mitchell Santner, who's been speaking.
Mitchell, thanks for joining us. Another victory tonight, a lot closer tonight. How were the nerves heading into that final stretch?
Obviously I was a little bit angry to start with because I should have been probably still out there. But, it was another great game against a great team. It was nice to, show the crowd that it got a bit tight in the end, but it was nice to obviously win, and we know England are a great side. So, 3-0 against these guys is a very good effort.
Very tricky wicket, but I thought that opening partnership was particularly impressive, considering the conditions, considering the likes of Jofra Archer bowling at top pace. What did you make of that?
Yeah, for sure. I think, when you're chasing, even the last game, you're chasing 180 or 220 and you get off to a tough start, it makes it pretty hard. So I think the way, Rachin and Dev, nice to see Dev obviously come back this game and do. I thought they did extremely well. It looked tricky at times, played some great shots. You kind of get through that little period and then you can kind of cash it, and obviously a couple of run-outs, and never helps. But yeah, I think it got a bit tighter than we thought, but it was still pretty clinical, I think.
2 run-outs at the non-strikers, that doesn't happen often.
No, it doesn't. So I think especially, Dev was in, did all the hard yards, and then obviously Tommy through the middle there as well. So it's one of those things where you're not going to say to guys, don't back up, because, but it was just one of those things, and obviously nice to get the win in the end.
Daryl Mitchell, 178 runs across the 3 matches, only out the once. I think he's gone past Virat Kohli in the world rankings. Incredible form he's in.
Yeah, no, he loves one-day cricket, and he controls the middle so well for us, as we've seen in both, all 3 of these games. So, yeah, he loves to get in the fight. So when guys get at him, he loves it even more. So, yeah, I think even he would have liked to be there at the end, but even to get us that close was a very good effort from Daz.
I just want to ask you about Blair Tickner as well. 8 wickets in 2 matches, coming back into the side. Everything he's dealt with personally, obviously out there in the middle as they win the game. How amazing is it to be involved in that and to see him make these strides?
Yeah, I mean, it's outstanding. I mean, it's, credit to, these guys who come in and are to able to perform straight away. Obviously, we make the environment where, guys can express themselves and be themselves, and Blair came straight back in, 8 very big wickets over 2 games, and looked like Don Bradman out there with the bat tonight as well.
We had a conversation earlier, much earlier, a long time ago, about 5 or 6 hours ago, about who is the best all-format player in cricket, and we said Travis Head. Well, Daryl Mitchell is a shout. He's in the chat. He's in the conversation, isn't he?
I probably would have said yes. I don't know if his form, and I could stand to be corrected. I don't know if his form in all formats together have been that as strong as they have. He had a period there where obviously he was dominating Test cricket. He came into one-day cricket, and that's when I think when he was opening the batting for New Zealand, I think in the World Cup, that's when he really, in the T20 format, he was really dominant. I think at the moment, yeah, he's been maybe a little bit up and down, but I tell you what, he's certainly right up there. That's for sure.
And again, he's just got the sign over England, and he does roll them. We know that, but so what? So did Ricky Ponting. In fact, I tell you what, before you speak, Cam, let's hear from Daryl Mitchell. He's been speaking as well.
Daryl, well batted in the series. I'd imagine you probably, knowing you and your competitiveness, you're probably gutted you weren't able to go undefeated or unbeaten with the bat.
Look, it was awesome to see Folksy and Tix at the end there do the job, and yeah, that's a pretty exciting game of cricket on a challenging surface, so good fun.
How did you feel about your batting in the series? Because you actually you got good scores, but it looked difficult on these pitches.
Yeah, it was a grind at times, and I guess that's the nature of early summer here in New Zealand, that ball will do a bit, but yeah, nice, I guess, to get the 3 wins and walk away with a series win.
Today was a little bit different too, I think, from the way that you approached the other innings. The other innings may be a little bit more, I don't know if I could say more positive, because you're always positive when you bat, but it looked like it was harder to score runs out there this evening.
Yeah, look, it was challenging. I think both me and Dev have got a few war wounds on our body from wearing a few, but it's just trying to build a partnership when the ball's nipping around and trying to put pressure back on them when you can.
One thing you do tend to handle with bat is pressure. You've been in many pressure situations and done well. Well, what is it that you think allows you to handle that pressure and still play very positively at the same time?
Oh, look, I think that's why you play the game, is to be in moments like that. And, as a kid growing up in the backyard, I guess you imagine those situations. So to be out here doing it in real life's pretty cool.
How does your mentality with the bat change from format to format? Because you've done well in all forms. Does it sort of change much, or you just apply yourself the same way regardless?
Look, I guess you're constantly adapting to different situations, and your risk changes as the formats change. But, you're just trying to win little moments for the team, and hopefully that means you're winning games of cricket.
You must both have played with players that just had such a, I don't know, still-minded attitude to going out, a bloody-mindedness, essentially. It's not just about talent, is it? It's not just about being able to play the shots. It's just about refusing to lose, refusing to give your wicket away. And those, when you've got one or two of those in your team, and you two may count yourself as those kind of people as well. I mean, you don't reach the top of your profession without having mental fortitude, but certainly there's something about Daryl Mitchell that you want him you want him in your team, don't you? Just because he's not going to give it up easy.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I wouldn't put myself anywhere near that category, but he's certainly one of those guys who you definitely want your team, and he's come in some tough scenarios as well. Like both top orders have found the conditions extremely challenging, even though New Zealand have batted second in all 3 ODIs. But I think the mental fortitude extends to the rest of the Kiwi batters as well. I mean, you look today at Ravindra and Conway with that opening stand, like 78, I think, and they played absolutely wonderfully. Just being able to rotate the strike and weather an Archer storm, really, who was bowling rapid and moving the ball a long way. So I think, obviously, many congratulations to Daryl Mitchell on a fine series, but also to the other batsmen.
Okay, Harry Brook, because of course he is the skipper. He's new to the job, but this is a painful series defeat for him. What do you think he would have learned? It can't just be about winning the toss a bit better than not. Do you think there's any parts of his game in terms of his captains? I mean, look at the innings he had in the first match. His batting isn't being affected by his captaincy, not this stage. But is there anything about his captaincy that you've seen that he might want to tweak?
No, not yet.
Didn't bring Rashid on till the 30th over, for instance.
And that's what I said today was probably going to be a day where it challenged him technically or tactically. But no, there aren't things that were glaring yet. A challenge for us is seeing the fields. But he's got to go through experiences, and to become, a class leader, you need to get miles under your belt. You've got to be able to be put into different situations. The one thing I just find it again. I know there's more depth to what they're saying and just saying because the ball's doing a bit and bowlers are doing a bit, we're just going to go harder. To me, they probably don't have to explain that, but I just don't think it comes across great when you say I'm just going to go harder. When I think you just nailed it. Maybe is that Daryl Mitchell is probably the difference. And New Zealand were in trouble too, even though they were 70 today. They lost the wickets quickly, but Daryl Mitchell absorbed the pressure. And the game's about, yes, it is about entertainment. But also on surfaces like this, sometimes you've got to be able to adapt and you've got to say, hey, this is doing plenty. What do we think? And part of that's that EQ. What do we think is a good score that we'll be able to be competitive and we'll be able to defend? The challenge, I think, with the modern cricketer is someone like Harry Brook is that his sights are so big because he's so good that he goes, I can go out and I can hit. And I remember hearing Joe Root talk about, the 2 best players, the difference between, Harry Brook and Kevin Peterson. Kevin Peterson used to dominate through presence and he'd stand there, and I was talking to Harmy about that in the T20 series. But if you bowled him a half volley and hit you through covers or back of length, he said Harry Brook could come out and he'll hit you through the covers with that ball. He can hit you over a long on, he can probably slog sweep you. So sometimes their own ability and their own belief in themselves nearly is an undoing, whereas today it's a little bit like I've just got to pull things back a bit. I've just got to be a bit tighter, like he actually did, believe it or not, when he got his 130. But, I would say, and Brendan McCullum's sitting down now, and I'm sure he's looking forward to this press conference. This is part of the big picture. They're getting themselves prepared. They've got the Ashes coming up now. They'll reflect on this at a certain time. They've enjoyed their time as a group in New Zealand. They'll use this experience to get better for a World Cup. And that'll be the line, and they're probably right by saying that too.
We might hear from Jamie Overton shortly. We do have Harry Brook, I believe. He has been speaking after England went down to that 2-wicket defeat.
Harry, well, you very nearly pulled this one out of the fire. I imagine you're a little bit gutted because you had your chances, didn't you?
Yeah, absolutely. I thought it was an amazing game of cricket there at the back end for us to nearly defend that score, which probably wasn't quite enough. Was a great effort from the lads.
I guess if you look at all 3 of them, just didn't get the starts that you required to really set a platform to go on for really challenging totals.
No, definitely not. That's obviously one thing we've spoken about. We didn't quite get big enough scores to be able to defend them and give the bowlers the best chance to win us the game. So yeah, we'll go back. We'll take the learnings that we've made from this trip here, and we'll try our best to be better in the future.
How frustrating is it? Because you look at the personnel on this English side, full of wonderful cricketers, and you're just not getting the job done in one-day international cricket.
Yeah, it probably didn't help that I didn't win a toss as well. It favoured the toss a little bit. So look, they're the second best team in the world for a reason. They've outplayed us this series. We just haven't been good enough, and like I said, hopefully we just bounce back.
You're right. They were important tosses to win. What did you make of the surfaces in terms of one-day international cricket?
Yeah, they were tricky. Obviously, they had quite a bit in them. That their guys are swinging the ball and getting the most out of the pitch. So, it was tricky, but we've got to find ways in the future. And if we want to be one of the best teams in the world and win world competitions, we need to find a way.
Got to find a way. We'll see. We'll see. It's very early stages for Harry Brook's captaincy. I went up to Headingley in must have been April this year when he was announced as a skipper, and I did come away from it thinking, okay, we'll see, because he just kind of went for the vibes. Basically, it wasn't about tactics or the data. It was about going out there and trying to score more runs than the opposition and take more wickets, and that was it. And then, of course, at the toss, it's interested me after before those two of the T20s, he talked about looking at the data in terms of whether to bat or bowl, and you think, oh, okay, something sounds like it's changed a little bit. And then, professional sports people don't like losing, do they? You guys do not like losing. So he's not going to be happy if and when England lose. And actually, that's kind of what you want. You don't want people smiling when their teams lose. So it'll be interesting to see how he comes back. Of course, he'll probably appreciate just going back into the ranks when the Ashes come around.
Yeah, I think I think people often, you can Twitter's a horrible echo chamber for it, but people can get angry at see it as being blasé. But I don't think anyone should ever, and Baz McCullum has said it loads, I don't think anyone should ever see these guys as not competitive and wanting to win. And Harry Brook you wouldn't be that good if you weren't as competitive as he is. And I think even though he might simplify things when it comes to interviews, he will be trying to become the best captain he can be, and if that means looking at more stats, then I'm sure he's all over it and 100% back him to get the job done in the future. And
I still go back to, you got to remember, if you look around the world, and even in a month's time you play in New Zealand, these pitches will be flatter. They'll be pretty even contests between bat and ball, and if not, probably more. So, it's probably shook them, and it would shake any team that turns up. And I go back to, why is New Zealand, so good at this format? This format actually suits this New Zealand side's temperament. So even from a batting point of view, chasing 220, they've got the ability to pull it back. That suits them. But one thing you've got to give New Zealand credit for, and I think when you look at it again, I go back and while the conditions did do a bit, they bowled exceptionally well. We remember Matt Henry, that first over a week ago, nipped one back, got a wicket in the first over, set the tone, and then everything followed. You go and look, I bet their pitch maps and using stats, I bet if you go and look at the areas that you're trying to hit and look at the execution for New Zealand, they'll be all over it. So they did everything they possibly could on a supporting tracks to put England under pressure, and that's all you can do. But I agree, you can't never judge someone, what Harry Brook's going to say in front of the camera, And even when I say, he keeps saying about going hard, I know there's more substance behind just going, it's just the easy thing, we just got to go hard. But they talk more about what that's about. And you've got to learn your way. And this is his first experience. Brendan McCullum's come in as a white ball coach too. That's a new relationship. They'll build it. The one thing they've got to be careful, and I mean, even then, they're a world-class side. Well, they're actually not. Because to be world-class, you've got to be winning at a world-class rate. They've got the potential to be world-class. And I think that's probably the frustration thing from an England fan point of view at the moment, that you're seeing all these players who probably individually are very, very, very good players. Just at the moment, though, collectively they're not quite getting together. But as we know, when they do, they're going to be hard to beat.
Let's hear from Jamie Overton.
Hi, Jamie. Thank you very much for joining us on Sport Nation. Look, a difficult series for England in these ODIs. What do you make of what's transpired?
Yeah, I think we've tried to play the game how we want to play it, and you can probably say it's probably not necessarily worked in the first for all three games, but I feel like we're playing the style we want to play, and it's just not worked for us. And maybe that's what we have to take a little bit of learning from that going forward, and maybe not play with our egos a little bit, but just try and almost play a bit more sensible at times and playing more into our strengths. But yeah, I think it's quite frustrating. But yeah, it was nice I know we lost today, but it was nice to finish potentially very entertaining, very close game. So the fielding efforts that we've had in all 3 games have been very good. But that's cricket, and it's quite frustrating at times.
There was a lot of fight in this game, and I want to talk about that in 1 second. But talking about those batting performances in particular, the positive cricket is one thing, but it does seem to go into the reckless sort of area at times. Is it about tampering that down a little bit and finding the right balance?
Yeah, I think it's just finding the right tempo. Obviously 50 overs because it's a long time, and I think we've got world class players in the whole side. So I'm not going to tell them what to do. They know what they need to do, and it's probably just a few guys out of form, and that's just one of those things. A short series like that those things can happen, and yeah, it's frustrating. But I think we've shown in the last couple of games we've fought quite well to almost get back into them, and a couple more wickets here and there in the first 2 games, and they might have been close.
5 down within 10 overs, that's not what any ODI team needs, but the fight that was shown in the batting order, you leading the way, very positive in this match in particular, and then obviously with the ball you made it very close. Are those the positives you take out of this?
Yeah, I think it's all positive. I think the fielding and the bowling we've shown in all 3 games has been really, really good. We've done a lot of work around outside of the game, trying to be really close as a unit, and you can see that when we're in the field, we're buzzing around, we're trying to make things happen even though we're kind of behind the game. So it's disappointing to lose, but I feel like we've learned a lot as a side, and hopefully we can take that move going forward.
And what's next for the team? Is there a bit of time left in New Zealand, or do you head straight over to Australia ahead of the Ashes?
Most of the boys sort of head home tomorrow. A few of us are heading back to England. Obviously the Test boys are going over to Perth. I think a few have got a few days off here. But I think a lot of the bowlers are heading to Perth to get ready for the Ashes. And obviously the rest of the white ball boys have got sort of up to Christmas off, and then we've got Sri Lanka series after Christmas.
So Jamie Overton speaking there to Ben Strang from Sport Nation. Big thanks to those guys for all of their assistance throughout this series. A series that started out with the weather and England combining to defeat New Zealand. England taking that T20 series 1-0, but wow, New Zealand have come roaring back. 3-0 series win, capped off with a 2-wicket win today. Player of the match, Blair Tickner. Before we wrap up, just final thoughts really. It's been short, sharp, sweet, and it's been great to have you both in the commentary box. So huge thanks to Cameron Still and Craig Cumming, who will be heading back to their counties shortly after we go off air. So good luck over the winter, and thanks for listening. It's been fantastic 2025 for us here on talkSPORT 2. We brought you a lot of cricket. Started out in India. India then became the visitors to England throughout the summer, and we've capped it off with this tour of New Zealand. Who knows what the future holds? But a big thanks for listening, and a big shout out to the production team as well. Scott Taylor, Ollie Hunter and Jack Hayton, and Macca, of course, who's still sitting here listening to us warble on as the day. Well, it is the daytime now, isn't it, here in the UK. Big thanks to everyone involved in talkSPORT Cricket, but that's it for now. That's the action at Wellington. New Zealand winning over England by 2 wickets and taking the series 3-0. Bye for now.